Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to a long overdue edition of the news. Um, I suppose I'll call it the social news more than anything else because a lot of that has been going on recently in the last 2 or 3 weeks, certainly in my life, in terms of interacting with people and all that sort of stuff. But anyway, we'll continue with that in a second, but I hope everybody's doing well. I hope everybody got through the heat wave in one piece and roughly the same shape and weight as they did when they entered it. And I hope everybody is doing okay, staying in touch with the right people, not wilting when someone says something and all that. Staying true to yourself and standing in your power and all that sort of thing. I'm doing quite well myself, thank you very much. I've given myself a couple of days break, even though I've still been doing a couple of bits and bobs in the background. And in fact, just about an hour or two ago, I just got off the phone with my daughter, who is visiting her mother's side of the family in the Republic of Georgia. And just as a little side note, it was quite interesting because she said, "Oh, come with me, I want to show you something." So she took her phone and she went into the bathroom, turned the water tap on. They've got no water. Water supply has been cut off. Georgia, of course, is one of the countries that rests on the Black Sea. The Black Sea having many countries having their coastlines on there, including, of course, Ukraine, or the Crimea, as it were. We had a Crimean War as well, by the way, back in the 1800s, funny enough. Interesting century, that. Won't go there now. But anyway, yeah, so she showed me that. And of course, also rather interesting that when you fly to Georgia, you have to fly over that region. If that was a war zone, a full-blown war zone, I doubt very much you would get yourself a plane and fly over the Black Sea. Let's put it this way, I wouldn't, not as a passenger and not as a pilot. But anyway, that's by the by. But also she today asked me a couple of questions, pulled up Google Earth on her phone. I certainly didn't prompt any conversation. And she was asking me how I could explain how an aeroplane would fly over the surface of a ball that's spinning. And I was just gobsmacked, actually. So what I did was I took a couple of screenshots of us having that conversation, and I posted one up on Facebook, and I wrote a little comment to it because I thought that was fascinating. She's 12 years of age, asking questions. Now, in the normal sense, that would be stopped at source at school. Don't be silly, kind of thing. And of course, the mainstream will be hammered home. I'm glad that she has shown a bit of inquisitiveness and is actually asking questions of her own volition without me prodding her from the side, and going, take a look at this or take a look at that. Not really, no. That's good because it opens up that avenue for conversation, and she's very open-minded anyway, so that's fantastic. So there we go. Right, moving on from that, I wanted to mention, in a grateful sense, the Flat Earth meetup that happened on the 26th, 2 days ago in Swanage. So I wanted to give a massive big shout out to Ian Leahy, who was instrumental in arranging that lovely social event. I thoroughly enjoyed it, made some good contacts, did a bit of good networking. And it was a lovely ambience anyway. Even the skeptical locals, they were fine, and we had some really good conversations. And as always, the conversations branch out to other things because, like I keep saying, it's all connected. So when we talk about the shape of the earth or what realm we live in, or questioning the authoritative narrative in general, that's kind of what we mean. That's why the tour took the approach it did. But anyway, the Flat Earth meetup was, I felt, a brilliant occasion. I thought it was a great success. I enjoyed the journey. I was like a little kid getting on a ferry and stuff. I had to film it and post it on my YouTube channel, but I enjoyed it. It was a good day out. Just what I kind of needed after the 12 days of the tour that we did. But it was nice, and it was nice to meet up with people in a in a very relaxed environment in the Globe Inn. So, long may that continue. I hope we get another few opportunities. I hope sincerely, this is not me lobbying or anything like that, but I hope sincerely that it becomes a monthly event, because I certainly, for one, would be attending it, no doubt. Right, so on that note, yes, I just wanted to say a big thank you to Ian and to everybody who I met that day. I'm not going to start naming names because I will forget one. I will, but you know who you are. So if you're watching this, thank you very much. I thoroughly enjoyed it, and please feel free to get in touch with me, any of you who I swapped numbers with. And those who I didn't swap numbers with, I also put my email address on a list that was handed around as well. So do get in touch. Please feel free. So that's so much for the Flat Earth meetup in Swanage that just went by a couple of days ago. Brilliant. Must do it again. Actually, before I do finish off on that, it brought me to a topic that I was thinking about earlier when I was having a conversation with someone in a shop. And actually it was to do with money, because I was asking if I could pay cash, because there wasn't an obvious option of paying cash. And she was telling me how, yeah, they sort of conceal it a little bit, but you can pay cash, blah, blah, blah. But I just thought to myself in that moment, anybody can hold a conversation with somebody about these topics or similar topics. And I understand that it's not everyone's bag or cup of tea to stand in front of banners in the middle of a town centre somewhere and make yourself a target for people, and you don't know what's going to get thrown your way, metaphorically speaking, of course. Although we did have a woman armed with a water pistol on one of them in Cardiff. Shout out to Martin Liedke there, because we had a good one that day. It was a good day. But, the point I'm making there is the conversations can be had in any kind of setting or environment. I did it at the football club when I was working there. I would talk to stewards, who I felt you could approach a little bit, who seemed a bit open-minded, and you would drop a little thought bomb. Things like, why do the stars always return to their positions in the sky? And Polaris, apart from that technical little thing that it does flicker and move ever so slightly, doesn't move. Right? Stuff like that. And so there are many opportunities to pass on a sort of a message that certainly wasn't satisfactorily answered when we asked them back in school. But yeah, that just sprang to mind, thinking about, many ways to talk to people, many scenarios, many situations. I thought I'd just mention that. Like I say, it's not everyone's bag, is it, to stand in front of banners? Anyway, so I just wrote a couple of notes down because, of course, I have a memory of a goldfish, which they say is 3 seconds. How did they work that out? Right, moving on also to something I was doing recently. I did a live stream on Sunday, and I went round where I live and the neighbouring boroughs, a couple of them, looking at old buildings, old looking buildings, etc., etc. Often they're shaped as churches or being revamped into libraries and that sort of thing. And here's a little bit of food for thought for you. In a radius of a mile, there are at least 20 churches, at least. And I've not even included the water tower and one or two of the other big churches. There's also a big synagogue up the road as well that's made of brick and all that sort of stuff. You've got the Masonic Lodge that's a large building on Knoll Road that is made of bricks. So there are all these buildings that are made of bricks and clad and all the rest of it. Lots and lots of them. And like I said on the video, if you look at the census of the area going back to the 1880s, 1890s, which don't forget, before that time, not many people were reading and writing or anything like that. Certainly was no school system like we have now up and running or anything like that. But yeah, we were led to believe that in low population areas like here with 800 people or so, they would knock up these buildings that of course go very deep in the ground. Every single one of them shows evidence of the ground having risen. What's what people call mud flood. And some people put it down to the roads having been lifted by engineers and builders to then make it all, but then how do you explain cemeteries lifting up? And I pointed that out in a cemetery just around here in Boscombe, whereby you could go down the side of the church, it goes deep into ground, the chapel, but everything else around it is level. So they obviously haven't lifted the whole field in the cemetery up to align itself with the chapel. Something's happened there after those buildings have been built. and of course it's been kept from us, hence the research. So yeah, I just wanted to mention that over 20 churches. I've not counted them all, but I personally went around 17. I can add the water tower to that, and when I looked on the radius calculator on my map earlier, it took the barrier of 1 mile radius well beyond Springbourne, which is where I went on Sunday to look at the Elim Church and the Breath of Life Church, amongst other things. So you can add another 3 or 4 churches easily to the ones that I've knocked off in that sense in recent videos. So yeah, I just thought I'd throw that out there. Why would you build 20 such buildings? Doesn't make sense. Anyway, there we go. So that is one of the reasons why I like to look at that and start asking questions. And the interesting thing is also, coupled with that, a friend of mine told me that he wrote off a while back to try and get some information back from parish churches and stuff like that. Well, if you think about it like this, if you're cladding buildings, making them look old, of course, but cladding them, on the front you'll have the Purbeck rock or whatever it is they're using, Portland cement, and all that sort of stuff, which wasn't patented until 1824. Then first of all, where are you getting all that material from for a kickoff to clad it? And secondly, when you've cladded, why are you just cladding it down to the ground or to the bit that's visible as well? You know, there are many sort of questions when you look at these buildings, and you see them all over the place. Evidence of prism lighting in the ground, letting light into basement windows and stuff that of course were never meant for underground, and etc. And of course you can ask the question, well, what you're going to get out of looking at all of this research or researching all of this? Well, it adds to the lies, doesn't it? It adds to the evidence, the body of evidence that we have, that we're being lied to on pretty much every single topic there is out there. Where do you want to start? Food? You know, but they'll sell the easy causes to the mass population, of course, and have them get behind that way, avoiding the real topics. And we experienced that when we were on the tour. I lost my trail of thought a little bit in a minute, but it doesn't matter. Not so important. But yeah, getting back to the cladding, if you want, that's what I meant to say. If you want to clad your buildings, you need plans for those buildings because you need the original dimensions, right? So if I'm going to put circular concrete pre-molded sections onto the outside of a circular corner of a building, you see it quite a lot. You see these corners, but they're actually like hexagonal or octagonal or even rounded shaped. Well, if you're putting cladding around that, you need to know the exact dimensions of the building you're cladding. Just like if you want a tailor-made suit, you get measured up, right? So it's a similar sort of thing. And you can then see where the cladding starts, and then you see the brickwork is lighter, it's gone grayer because it's been covered, or the colour of the cladding is rubbed off on it, etc., etc. So you've got a lot of different things going on in these buildings. So getting back to that point I was making, when they say they don't have any plans, then I would suggest that they're being extremely economical with the truth, because they must have plans. They have to. Anyway, right, so much for the cladding and etc., etc. But that is one of the things to look out for with buildings. And anyway, on this live stream that I did on Sunday, I went round the area, like I said, and it's just when you take closer looks at it, it becomes very clear very quickly. But there we go. So I just thought I'd put that out there. I just wanted to mention a couple of bits. I really just show my face and also just express my thanks to Ian Leahy and friends for the Flat Earth meetup in Swanage. I thought it was an absolute overwhelming success. Great stuff. I'm not going to go into the thanking and everything else in terms of the Global Eye Tour, because we already kind of did a video when we were at the hall, Brook Hall, when we were going to do Preston, and then it got rained off. First of all, I will forget names again, and secondly, we'll get an opportunity, because there will be a hangout / podcast that will go out in the next few days, whereby we're going to round off and reflect on the events that occurred. Hopefully have some nice montages to follow as well, highlighting some individual moments of the tour, and of course also highlighting those who partook in the tour, because there were many people involved. Yes, there was the core element, but there were lots of people that came and met us, greeted us and supported us, both financially in terms of donations, but also in terms of numbers. You know, there were moments where people had to have each other's backs. So in the face of adversity, everyone did very, very well. You know, it's not easy. It really isn't. I'm not playing the victim. I do it by choice, but I'm saying it's challenging, nevertheless. So, you know, well done to everybody, but I'm not going to go there too far now because I'd like to take the opportunity later as well. And I'm going to thank people on a personal level in my own way anyway. And some I already have. So, yeah. And of course, you'd want initiatives like that to continue, and you'd want more of them to happen as well. So, you know, if anybody at all out there feels that they have a couple of weeks to spare and we can work things out and brainstorm some ideas, please get in touch with me. I'm all ears. Not literally, I have other body parts as well, but you know what I mean. And you can reach me via Facebook, you can reach me on Instagram, and I'll leave a link in the description below for with my email address as well, so you can reach me there, and I will respond to you. I won't go all Mark Sargent and leave my phone number, but I'm not that cool. But you know, you'll be able to get hold of me anytime you want to. So and then we can discuss possibilities. Anyway, so on that note, I just wanted to express some thoughts on one or two things, show my face, and I'll be putting out probably another video towards the weekend, maybe over the weekend. I'm not too sure yet. I have to say, on my way, just to finish off, on my way to getting the ferry over to Swanage to go to Ian's meetup, we passed through a town or a borough called Westbourne, and which is in Bournemouth, and as the bus took a left, on the right hand side I noticed a building that from a distance could have been your library, red brick of course, library or a chapel, church, whatever. And of course it's a Tesco. So there's a very obvious example of how they repurpose buildings. And that's exactly what they do. They did do and do today. And there's lots of them. So I thought that was quite interesting. So I think what I'm going to do next is probably take a look at Westbourne and go for a little walk around there and see, because there are lots and lots of old buildings there, Victorian builds, a lot of steel and all that sort of stuff, which of course, well, that goes down another rabbit hole to do with limestone. I won't go there now. But anyway, very interesting area. Right. So thank you ever so much, those of you who are going to see this and have a little listen to me waffling or rambling away. Yeah, it's good to have done what we've done in the last couple of weeks, and I feel re-energized. It took a lot out of us, a lot of traveling and stuff like that, but it was fun and it was good, and the responses were surprisingly good, better than I thought they would be. Okay, on that note, he's happy as Larry because I'm back, because he can't work the phone. And he certainly can't work it if it's in my pocket and I'm in Jason's car anyway. So, yeah, he was a bit upset, but he's happy as Larry now. There he is, you know, in his element. Bless him. So, we're all back together again where we belong. On that note, thank you very much. See you all soon. Some of you sooner. Until then, bye-bye. Take care. Ta-ta for now. See you later.